Hello, I'm Alice Lowe. Welcome to another Deaf What interview. We are interviewing Mathew Kuntz, and this is his sign name. Welcome. Thank you. I'm ecstatic to be welcomed into this interview today. I hope you have been doing well with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. In what ways has it impacted your life? Yes, experiencing the pandemic shortly after beginning a new job was a lot. I work at MHS. The name is in French, short for Maison d'Hommes Sourds. In English, it stands for Deaf Men's Center. I worked part-time when I first joined the team in February, shortly before the pandemic happened in March. After the pandemic hit, it was incredibly overwhelming trying to adjust and adapt to unprecedented times. We had planned for social activities out and about, but we had to change our plans. It was difficult to figure out what we could do instead in the circumstances. Our client intake also increased rapidly. Before the pandemic, the numbers were steady until it spiked in the face of the pandemic. There was an increased need for support to navigate government welfare programs, divorce, and separation. There was a high percentage of divorce and separation that we had to support, especially with the legal process through video calls. As for in-person activities, we had decided to host them through video calls. When we first started, it went well, but over time people stopped attending because it quickly became tiring for many people. They got tired of being on Zoom all day, almost every day. It was eye-straining. It was overwhelming trying to adjust and adapt, and it certainly was not easy. Up until now, things have been slowly improving. It hasn't been easy coping with the pandemic. Wow, yeah, I get it. COVID-19 has heavily impacted our lives, the way we think and feel. I understand the strain on our eyes working from home and using Zoom daily. I work like that every day, and it wasn't easy to adjust and get used to. Now it's kind of looking like, quote-unquote, normal. There's a hybrid system now, working in person for a limited time and working from home. It's becoming common, but will it continue? Who knows? It might be possible. I have a feeling it might last 1 or 2 more years. We've discussed it at work, but also through our interactions with the government. Working in social services, it's tough. The government seems to have focused on medical services in light of the pandemic, like medical services, hospitals, clinics, nurses, doctors. But they forgot about the importance of social services, our clients' mental health. So, when you mentioned that social services have been impacted, did you mean like having less time for one-to-ones with your clients? Or in what ways has it affected social services? Funding. The funding we used to get was plentiful. The funding we get now has been dramatically reduced, forcing us to budget carefully in how we distribute it. They've mentioned that once we use up all the funding, they will provide more, but that hasn't happened. We've been used to hosting activities, workshops, providing services, but now we're limited. We've been asking for more funding, but they've refused, despite us negotiating and advocating for almost 4 or 5 months. It hasn't been easy to get them to release funding for social services. We used to not be considered as frontline services, and we have been fighting for us to be recognized and documented as part of the frontline services. It's crucial for our clients' mental health and what we help with. We know that your job is an important job. Can you tell us how COVID-19 has impacted your work? Yes, we've had several incidents. As I've recently mentioned, it has severely impacted multiple clients' mental health, especially those who are struggling with reading and writing, communicating, or those who are already isolated. When I first started, we had 40 clients. We have 87 clients now. Within the last year, so many issues had come up with our clients that we had to work through. I've been working overtime. It wasn't easy balancing my personal life and my work life. My work life has overtaken my personal life. Many clients would call even when I wasn't clocked in to work at night. They would be in distress, express emotions and tears, feel isolated, severely depressed. I would interact with them and refer them to necessary services like psychotherapy, psychiatry, or for a doctor. I've been trying my best. I can't make the referral go through instantaneously. I would have to work for it to happen over the span of 1 to 2 weeks. There's an ongoing issue of having our fully deaf staff interact with hearing services. We would call them and get their answering machine frequently, and they don't reply. We submit many requests, but with no response. And after a certain amount of time, usually 2 to 3 weeks, we would ask our hearing network and other folks who would support our work to call for us. Oftentimes, they get an immediate response. It's ironic. It might have something to do with VRS. We also do workshops. Sometimes people put it off and put it on the back burner. They promise they will, but they don't come. Isolation impacts so many people's mental health. It wasn't easy. We used to have so many people gathering together in person, but now we do it on Zoom. There are some people who don't have a laptop or who can't afford one, and so we have to figure out alternative ways. This was in March, and they still haven't been able to do it, and they've been screaming for help. We were scrambling to figure out what to do instead. Zoom, they don't have or don't know how to use it. We moved to Skype, FaceTime, etc. It's been chaos trying to figure it out, and it split our focus. We had to narrow it down to focus and keep going. In March, there were only 2 of us. Well, really it was 3 of us. Then now just 2 of us. Eventually You mean 2 staff members? Wow. Yes, staff members. There were only 3 of us. We now have a total of 6 staff. 6 staff handling around, you mentioned 80 clients? 87 clients. Wow, that's such a steep number for such a small amount of staff. It must have been hard to handle each case at a time. The reason why that happened is because MHS was recently established, almost 3 years ago. A year before that was spent on filling out the paperwork for grants and funding. And then finally, it kicked off with funding from the government. COVID has also impacted us to wait for funding for months. It wasn't immediate, or at least within the first few weeks. Sometimes we would wait for 5 months. We were short on funding and we worked through it. We finally have less weight on our shoulders. Wow. I'm so surprised to learn that 6 staff handled 87 cases. Props to you for all your working hard, rolling up your sleeves to help with the needs of your community with your support while MHS was still new. It's good that it's growing. Hopefully it will expand with more staff to help with community needs. Wow. Hats off to you. Yes, we definitely need more staff. You've been involved with different organizations in the deaf community. Can you tell me what sort of work you've been doing? Right now, I just joined an organization, and this is the sign name. It stands for Société Culture Quebec for the Deaf, but it's in French. It is similar to the CCSD National Society, but this one is provincial. I joined the board to manage the operations of the organization in April. It's been going good, but it's been tough with lack of resources. It was on the brink of collapsing until I helped bring the organization back on better terms. I also joined the board of CADASC, Canadian Association, as a director at large. I started in September, and I've been going for about 2 years now. It's been going well with our plans to build a committee, fundraising, workshops. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes and then sharing that with the rest of the deaf community. I'm also on the board of Drag Can Sign, Le Dragst Signé in French. I'm not exactly sure how to spell it. It's an LGBTQIA+ organization for deaf and hearing artists collaborating on drag performances, LGBTQ workshops, shows, comedy, for leisure. I'm on the board of 3 organizations. Thank you. It looks like it keeps you on your toes being busy with stimulation while studying for school. I also hope you enjoy it too. As an artist, what kind of work is it that you do? And do you have any future plans to show your work? As an artist, I enjoy performances. I participate in it as a hobby while also focusing on my work. Sometimes I get involved in my hobbies, but right now it's been on pause due to COVID. I've put my projects on hold to focus on work and school. From this point on, though, I'm writing down thoughts and ideas for future projects. I'm hoping to get a TV show going. We'll see. I'm also thinking for a film and writing up a plan and ideas by brainstorming. We'll see what happens with it and what sponsors for this project will say. I hope your project that you just mentioned you were writing for will actually happen in the near future. Whenever COVID is over, fingers crossed, so that we are able. Oh, I have one more thing to say. I've joined Drag Can Sign often for performances for a while now. I enjoy it a lot, especially for fundraising activities. It's been put on pause too in light of COVID. So I am really looking forward to being in drag again in the future. Thank you. I'm curious. Since you did mention being involved in drag, did you ever want to host drag events on Zoom? I did, twice, yes. I've been involved in hosting one for Toronto Pride last year and the year before. Hopefully I'll get to do it again next year. That's good. Keep doing what you really enjoy as an artist. Next question. What gives you joy? I love going to the mountains. Go on hikes and camp, boat, canoe, and doing outdoor activities to keep me feeling meditated and feeling peaceful. The work I've been doing has given me a heavy mental load, and it's not easy. I need to have an escape to nature. To breathe in nature, breathe in calm and feel connected to my soul and to my mind, and be in sync. I don't want to become overwhelmed and disconnect my mind from my body. It's important to keep my mind healthy. Yes, absolutely. Being outdoors, seeing nature, camping are really beneficial for us, especially in mental health. Not only in mental health, but in physical health as well. And also, reset your mind. Once you work, you've become overloaded with information, and then when you're in nature, all of that cleanses, fades away, and you feel renewed. Also, when I can't afford to go, I stay home. What do I do at home? I paint. I get together with friends on Zoom, and we paint together. We drink alcohol and have good conversations, and that helps a lot. Well, I'm curious. Do you have any thoughts or advice for the deaf community? For the deaf community, it is important to keep your life in balance and to take care of yourself. If you're feeling depressed or isolated, find a family member or a friend and talk about it. Are you thinking of leaving someone alone to give them space? It's better to reach out to them instead and ask them how they're doing. Keep messages going. I know someone who is isolated, and I try to reach out to them whenever I have time. It can be for 5 minutes or an hour. It's important to reach out to the deaf community because you don't want to see the hurt and the pain and have deaf people leave the community because of it. We want to keep the community together. There's been a lot of things impacting the mental health of marginalized folks in the deaf community, folks who are LGBTQIA+, Indigenous, Black, Asian. We value our marginalized folks and want to keep the care going, to be connected rather than to split everyone into groups. It will be hard to support people that way because the deaf community is already so small. Hearing people are everywhere. They already have so many resources. Deaf people have so little. Yes, true. It is time for us to unpack what we recognize we did wrong. What privilege is. And to try to improve our capability to provide for other marginalized folks, for Black Lives Matter, Asian, Indigenous, etc. I agree. It doesn't mean we will be perfect one day. It will take time, over a long period of time. It feels like we'll reach that in 5 to 10. It won't be instantaneous, not like magic. Yeah, you're right. That's impossible. It takes time. Also, I know that decolonization, slowly unwrapping colonization off. Yes, that's the one. Slowly learning and realizing, analyzing who you are, who others are, what unites us with each other, and how to help them based on what they teach us. With good resources, we didn't have access to resources before. Now we are slowly building resources and changing that for the future. We're really looking forward to that from now on with other marginalized people. The past few years through COVID-19 have been so unsettling, and that has woken people up so loudly. We're slowly learning and realizing I'm sure there will be more growth happening in the near future. Yes, yes, I agree with what you just said about COVID being a starter to a chain reaction. With Black Lives Matter, Asian issues, Indigenous issues, people are waking up. It's interesting that you can look at COVID as something only negative. But in another light, it shows that it's time to wake up and to adjust, to adapt and improve. Figure out how to help the community and how to uplift other people instead of just us. It's about time, and I really appreciate that change. To continue learning. Last question, using the same question from before, but for the hearing world. What advice do you want to share with them? The hearing people who have been an ally to the deaf community and who understand our culture and resources are great. But for those who take on the responsibility to do it for us, no. It's better to share resources so that we can take on the responsibility ourselves with support from hearing people. Instead of supporting hearing people to support us. It's better to be supported and to be able to do things because it's our culture, our art, our philosophy. To uplift the community and support it is wonderful. And that's nice, but not to take over. Yes, I fully agree. I used to see hearing people taking on those roles before. But nowadays, especially on social media, like TikTok or Instagram, our people are more widespread. More deaf people are standing up and speaking up, explaining and educating others about deaf culture, that it's ours. Hopefully they're out there listening and learning little by little, and that improves over time. Yes, hopefully. And recognize our skills and what we're capable of. Hopefully to make us become more equal like hearing people. Hopefully, I agree with you. I agree with you. I look forward to more in the future to become equal and balanced. Not more, not less. Yes, fingers crossed. Thank you. Well, it seems like we finished asking you all the questions. I want to thank you for your time in this interview. Thank you, Matt, for interviewing with the Deaf What Legacy Project. I also want to acknowledge the Canada Council of the Arts for funding this project. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.